hold and see. So there's a lot of amateur drywall people out there. I'm one of them. And I've just found in my experience, just like anything else, if you take the time with your first coat and scrape off all the extra and try to make it as smooth as possible, just like framing, making sure things are square, plumb, level, makes everything easier later on, a lot less sanding, all that kind of stuff. So the more care you take in the first coats and how well you install your drywall, the better and easier it is for you down the road. And that's just from a few years of experience doing this, and I'm definitely not a drywaller, but I think that's a pretty common thread. Another thing is I always use paper tape, and it's easier to finish, but it's also a lot less prone to cracking. After you're done. The mesh tape is mostly for repairs, I think. So, and even then, I don't use it unless I have to for some reason. So just get your tape bedded in there. Good. Make sure you have good mud on the back side so that you don't get bubbles. Usually work from the middle and go out. When you're doing flat joints, I'm going to try to push out mud if you can. You don't have mud bubbles under there too. When you lay your top coat, just get it nice and smooth. This isn't the final coat. Another thing too is when you come back after your first coat, if you do it nice and smooth, if there's imperfections, you can usually just hit them with your knife. And you don't have to, that one's actually, just put that on there. You don't have to break out the sandpaper just yet. So that will get a final coat with a big knife, and it'll fill in the divot a bit better. Once you get your tape bedded in, you can go either direction to put on your top coat. Another thing that's useful is if you have gaps like this in your corners, if you come through before you tape and you pre-fill, just make sure you don't overfill. Then when you come into your corners, it's a lot easier to prevent pushing your tape into the corner, breaking your tape, because then you've got some backing material in there. So if you just come through and pre-fill your corners, it doesn't have to be perfect, but definitely don't want to leave bumps, and it will make it harder to put your corner in nice and smooth. So I wouldn't come back and tape that corner till tomorrow. Give it a day to dry and get nice and set up. also want to make sure you have a layer of mud on top of your tape before you work it too much, because as that tape gets wet, it starts coming loose, kind of coming apart. You can imagine if you got paper wet, and then you kept rubbing it, it would kind of come apart. So when you press your tape into the mud, you don't want to work it too much before you get that top coat on there.
Blooper reel.
Bloop? Oh, you're funny.
This is top heavy with the big knife.
Yeah, so this is one of the vertical joints, and they don't have that recessed section, you know, like this. Where the long side of the sheetrock meets, there's a recessed section that makes it easy to run tape, but on a butt joint, you have to feather it out, or else they're very visible. And so, there's tips. Butt joints have been something that I haven't done the greatest in the past. But it involves, you can look it up on the internet, I'm not really one to tell you, but it involves putting pressure and bending your knife on one side and not putting as much pressure on the other. So we'll see what happens this time around. I used 12-foot pieces of drywall just for that reason, to avoid butt joints. So that one is behind the stove, the range, and this one is behind the fridge. And all my other butt joints are on the ceiling. I have no other butt joints, so that was intentional. I probably had a little bit more scrap sheetrock, but to me it's worth it. So you don't see these bulges on the wall. Every place you have a butt joint. I mean, I've seen professionals leave bulges too, so it's not an easy joint. I don't know why they don't do a turn or a recessed edge on the ends, probably because the manufacturing would be harder. But like these ones didn't matter because these walls aren't 2 foot on center. The studs aren't, they're 2 feet between. That's how this barn was framed. So like that wasn't even a full 12-foot sheet. I had to cut it short. So that wouldn't have helped me anyway. Alright, we're smooth. I think that's gonna turn out okay. That was a really bad joint right there. But I'm out of mud. It's lunch. So even though I haven't filled in all the places, it's smooth. And so I can easily come back and fill it in without having to sand. Plus the texture we're doing is gonna be a trowel texture. Never done that before, but it's way easier to match if you have to repair something, and that's kind of what I'm thinking in the future. I have the gun to do the orange peel and the knockdown and all that, and it's way easy and way fast to do that. Of course you have to tape stuff off, but when you have to repair it, it's a lot harder to match that. So anyway, it's lunchtime. Here's our little slop board over here for when you get to the end of your dish, or you got contaminated stuff from paper peeling off or whatever. Alright, well, we'll make some lunch and catch y'all later or another day or something. Alright guys, so in the back here I've got all of our knotty pine that's going to be going in to the barn. So we're going to get this home, but hope you enjoy the episode as we get some of that stuff installed. Hopefully it'll start looking great. Okay guys, it's been a long time since we've made a video, and the last thing you saw was me doing tape and texture, and so all of that's done now. You saw me doing taping and mudding on the drywall, and that's all done. And we've also textured almost everything so far. And the texture that we've been doing is a trowel-on texture. So it's not quite like a stucco, but basically we use just a flat trowel. If I had a trowel that had curved corners on it, I would probably do that. Just because sometimes this will leave lines and you got to go over it several times. But so basically we load up the walls with mud and then we trowel them. But I'm really happy with how everything's turned out. All of the interior walls were pretty good because we framed those, but the exterior walls, which we didn't have to do a lot of, there was a lot of uneven joists and stuff. So that was mostly in the bathroom upstairs that we had to do that. On the existing rafters, so they're rough cut, and they range anywhere from like 5 1/4 inches deep to like 6 1/2 or something. So you know you have this issue with trying to shim stuff. So luckily, most of the stuff that we decided to drywall was interior wall stuff, and I'm not sure if you can tell, if you can see the texture on the walls. We'll try to get a shot of it, or this is just a short wall, but
Exactly the fingerprints.
Yeah, we've had some of our precious children helping us do stuff, and sometimes, but this is just, so this, what you're seeing right now is textured and it's primed. So we haven't painted this yet. And then you can see how we did our knotty pine detail. So this is one of the things that we thought a lot about. You know, usually where you have knotty pine coming up to drywall, you would have some kind of a trim that wraps around the corner because you're going to have the V-groove and then you're going to be able to see the end of the pine. So what we opted to do is every place that we have pine meeting up with drywall, we put a corner in here. So there's a metal corner like you would on any other drywall corner, and we just mudded one side of it, and we made sure that it was, I guess, what would you call it, flush with the wall when we set it in there. So this is just a taped corner. It's got a paper tape on it, and so you put the mud on and you put it on just like you do taping a joint or something. You don't nail it or anything like that. So I thought that turned out pretty good. And so also any corner that we have with pine, I'll show you when we go upstairs. Making corners with pine is also, like, a lot of times people put a whole nother piece of pine, like a 1x4 on the corner, and it sticks out from the pine, and I don't like that all that much. So again, we did this kind of a thing, and I'll show you when we go upstairs. But so we're all done and primed down here, ready for paint, and we haven't picked paint colors yet, so we're hoping to get a little glimpse of what it looks like when the pine's all in. So these walls that you see that are still spray foam, that's all going to be knotty pine. All the drywall's done, so we still have a little bit of framing underneath the stairs there. That's kind of our mechanical room back in there. We've terminated all of our wiring in the panel, and if I could show you real quick, I would, but it's all nice and neat. Maybe I've got a picture of it. I'll throw that in here on the video so you guys can see, but got that all wired up. All the breakers are off because we haven't done any of our switch wiring or anything like that. So we can come back in here. And you can see, probably won't go in the bathroom, but so all the taping is done and all the walls turned out good and flat. I'm not a drywall guy, but I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out. I guess if you're not a drywall guy, you have to be a perfectionist. So this room's almost done. I just textured the 3 walls, and so I just have this little tiny bit of ceiling up here that I have to texture, and then that big part of the ceiling is already primed. So, and then we'll be doing pine. We have 1 accent wall in the bedrooms that'll be pine, and then the closets will be pine, mostly because in all of the closets I have, for the air ventilation system, I have some small duct work, and I have like the refrigerant lines, and it's just way easier to box that stuff out with wood than it is to try to do some kind of a drywall hybrid something or other. So that should turn out all right. So this bedroom in here, I just have this wall partially done, but this is basically the bathroom and this room are basically the rooms that are left that need to be done. So let's head upstairs and check out some of the pine. You could get some of this, how everything came together. So if you've never done angles with pine, it's pretty tedious. So this is where our gambrel roof starts, and getting all this to overlap and look straight and everything, you know, with all the rough cut. Basically, almost every rafter is shimmed so that we can have a straight pine. Otherwise, it would be this curvy situation, and sometimes you can't even push it in to nail it. But also we've nailed all of these as much as we could. We've nailed through the tongue, so you don't see nail holes. And I don't know how many people do that, but down here, obviously, along the bottom, we have face nailed in some places, and it's so doesn't stick out. So we're probably not going to even come back and do anything about it. We'll just leave the little holes there. And these are all pre-finished, so we just thought that would be a lot easier. You don't get like the edge binding and stuff by coming around later and pre-finishing it. It's also finished with a water-based floor product. So I'll let you get a good look at how much we've gotten finished up here. And we have pretty much been working on this ever since the last video you guys saw, but as it is, it takes forever. So especially some of these high places where we have to move ladders, scaffolding doesn't even work out all the time because of stairwells and stuff like that, or the loft. But the product that we used to finish these is a water-based product. It's typically for floors, and it's a sealer that has a very light, small amount of pigment in it. But one of the things that we wanted to do was keep the fur colored, so the Doug fir, like all the beams and stuff that are in the kitchen, the handrails for the stairs, the flooring that's up in the loft, that's all Douglas fir. So it has more of a darker color to it. And we wanted the pine. One of the things we don't like about knotty pine that's typically done is the oil finish that people tend to put on it that turns it yellow. And so we wanted it to stay the natural pine color. And if you look at this compared to, we can probably show you here, but this board right here, this board has finish on it. And I've got some boards back here that are unfinished. So there's like very little difference. And so we wanted to just keep that natural pine color, the white color, and we didn't want it to go yellow. So that's why we decided to go with that product. It's made by Bona. It's called Nordic Seal, I think is what it's called. Is that right? Yeah, we can show you up. We've got it up in the loft. So, but basically what we've been doing, so that is an entire unit of tongue and groove pine, and we're doing an in match. So what that means is we actually will cut the defects out ahead of time, square up the ends, and then we'll take a router and we'll put a tongue and groove on the ends. And so if you look around, none of the tongues and grooves, I mean, some of them line up, but none of them have to be on a stud. So you have a lot more, or a lot less waste that way. And then you also have, a lot more contact on the end of the board. So you don't have, boards, popping out or having, kind of weird things like that. But it lets you do like random seams and all that kind of stuff. So it takes a little bit of time to do the in match, but I really like how it turns out. And so I have no regrets on that. Glad we decided to go that route. So yeah, we pre-cut all the boards. We cut out the defects that we don't like. These were all auction pine. So this is our station. There's our big pile of dust down there. And we go through, cut all the defects out, and then we in match all the boards. And so then those go up in the loft, and Hillary, who's behind the camera right now, she's been putting the sealer on there on all the boards. Here's another corner detail. So this is just like downstairs, but there's no big pieces wrapping around. And if you have a little reveal on the end of your board, it makes like little gaps and stuff a lot less noticeable. So there's little tricks like that you can do to hide, little things that are going to stand out or something. But all of these angles are just brutal. Like everywhere you look, there's angles up here. And so it's just taken some time to get all of this done. But the next big push, the hardest part still, is going to be going up the rest of this wall. And then when we transition to the next angle on the gambrel roof, we're actually going to have to do a lot of furring up there. And then just to make it come down and match, I guess I didn't point this out down there, but when we get up in the loft, I'll show you some of the difficulty that we have to deal with. And you guys probably remember this if you watched our video where we put these beams in. We had to basically shim the bottom of the beams. So the idea is that the bottom of these beams are all level. So that was what we tried to do with that. But like if you come over here and we look at this wall, you can see, so down at that end, you can see where the double top plate, how far that is above the pine down there. And then it sags down in the middle, and then it comes back up on this end. So that's exactly what we had to deal with the beams. So like there's a little tiny shim under this beam right here. And then if you come down here, there's a big shim. So we're hoping that this is my little template to get the angle. But basically, we'll get a laser line across the bottom of the pine here. That'll tell us where this board's gonna sit, and then we can measure this gap right here, and that'll tell us how much we have to fur this ceiling out. And so we'll go, with the worst common denominator and go with that. So, but all in all, I mean, with all the stuff that we've had to deal with all the uneven joists and the sagging and all that stuff, it's turned out pretty good, isn't it? Slap me in the face because I shouldn't have said anything. So we also did get this air conditioner installed
kind of temporarily. We've got the condensate line just going in a bucket. But that unit is the only one that's on its own outdoor unit. The other 5 of our mini splits are off of one outdoor unit. And so one of the key things when you're putting in wood is you want to have a conditioned space. And so before we started putting the pine in, we really needed to make sure the temperature and the humidity stayed, pretty close all the time. So in the spring, we put this in, and it's been in all summer. This one air conditioning unit with the spray foam, it's set at 71. So up here in the loft and the second floor, it keeps it at 71, and the downstairs actually only gets up to 73, and we've had 100-degree days and stuff, so it's actually pretty impressive. Now, get a bunch of bodies in here and appliances and stuff like that, you're obviously gonna need the extra units, but we've been super happy with that. Don't always like to put those in when you're still doing construction, but we didn't really have a choice. So, but that's Blue Ridge, I think, which is like, yeah, I think that's like, made in China version of the Mitsubishi ones, but it's pretty good. I mean, our electric bill has not even really been noticeably different. So super efficient, and yeah, pretty happy with that. So here's kind of our setup here, where Hillary, we put a big stack of boards up here, and Hillary will spread them out, and she's been coating them down here. But this is the stuff that we use to coat it with. So pretty happy with that so far. I mean, there's been a couple of times, I always have my pencil in my hat like this, and I'll go to look down a board on the wall and I'll mark on it, and I just wet my finger and it comes right off. So hopefully it'll keep stuff nice and clean, it'll keep it sealed and all that kind of stuff. So I'm pretty happy with it so far. And it's not shiny. It's it's like a matte finish. So like if you look down the glare on that wall, it's not like a super shiny lacquer or anything. So we like that as well. It looks more like just plain pine. But so anyway, we've been working on this. Those walls takes a super long time where the ladders are there, because we have to move ladders constantly. And you can see the darker studs are part of the original barn, and they're a lot thicker than all of the framing in between, which is not framing we put in. That's framing that somebody else put in. If you guys remember all the way back, there used to be a door up here, and then there was a big window up at the top, and it was just a big hack job. And so we didn't do a lot with that, except for kind of put stuff back together after we took that window out. And a lot of, with this old building, you can see a lot of the orange foam that we've found, like cracks and stuff that the spray foam guys didn't get, but it's really hard to get into those cracks and crevices with the big spray gun. And really the thing that we're wanting to do is air seal. Obviously insulation's a big deal, but the air sealing is the biggest deal. So making sure we don't have the bugs coming in, and no foreign air coming in that's not pre-filtered and controlled. So we'll try to get you some more video of how we're doing all of this stuff, and I guess that's what we're doing right now. So get you some more video. I'll cut this part out, and I'm out of words. So.
There's one bolt that I have to cut. There's not enough head left. On the money.
This was a specially designed thing. That's where there's going to be another mini split, and that looks pretty simple, but with all of the joists being different thicknesses and the wall not being perfectly straight, stuff not being totally plumb, it could have been a lot worse, but it turned out pretty good. So we had to make a flat spot so that that mini split could mount vertical. I'm probably really not going to like it once we put it up there, but there wasn't any other place that we could put that. So without drilling through a whole bunch of floor joists and stuff to run refrigerant lines. So we haven't decided what we're gonna do. This will be a pine thing to close in. That'll be like a little storage closet. We probably won't put a ton of stuff in there, but we're gonna have some kind of a door or something there that we can lock. But haven't decided how or what or whatever to do there. And then we've told you guys before, this is all plywood that we used for our forms for our foundation, and that's all gonna be stone. So I think I have one of those up here. So we just got a good deal on this stone. Well, I can't really put it up to the pine, but so this one, and then we have another stone for the downstairs fireplace that's more of a brownish color, but that's what'll be on the face of this eventually, probably a mantle, stuff like that. So we'll keep showing you some footage. We still got lots to do, show you how we do all these angles, how we have to shim basically on almost every stud on these walls and probably going up the peak. So try to get you a little bit more footage of that. But hope you enjoy the video. We'll probably get this one put out just because it's taken us so long. But stay tuned and we will finish this someday. Take care. Goodbye.